Hi, I'm Sasha Minsky. This video goes through the steps of how I calculated the probability of whether our hero team could beat the team of Marvel villains. First, let's meet the teams, both of which are evaluated by 4 factors: speed, strength, powers, and intelligence. Each factor is given a value from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest. Our hero team, which we call the Gene Team, is made up of 4 characters: the Colored Comet, Stan Stapler, Sensei Mystic, and my character Bad Boy. I've added the character values to arrive at totals for the 4 factors and present them graphically. The Marvel Supervillains is made up of 4 characters: Thanos, Dr. Octavius, Kingpin, and Loki. I also added their character values and presented them. The objective now is to compare both teams according to their total character values to determine which team has the probability of beating the other. To do this, I first had to calculate and compare the total character values of the Gene Team versus the villains. So for each team and each factor, I calculated a comparative probability. Let's take speed as an example. For the Gene Team, I took their total value of 31 and divided it by the Gene and Villains team total value of 56. This resulted in the Gene Team's probability of 55% compared to the Villains' 45%. I did this for all 4 factors. These overall probabilities will ultimately be instrumental in the final calculations to determine which team will win. Because we have 2 teams competing against 4 measures, these are 16 possible outcomes that could result. By way of example, the heroes could beat the villains across all 4 measures, or the villains could beat the heroes across all 4 measures, with 14 other variations in between. The question is, what's the probability of each outcome happening? Keep in mind that a team has to beat the other team by more than 2 measures in order to win. If each team wins 2 measures, then it's a draw, and if a team only wins 1 of the measures, then it loses. All clear? If so, let's proceed and calculate the probability of who wins, draws, or loses. First, let's remember the initial overall probability that we calculated at the beginning of this video. I told you they'd come back into the picture. Here are the 4 probabilities of the Gene Team beating the villains. Now let's remember there are 16 possible outcomes, laid out in the extremes of one team beating the other across all 4 measures. Finally, here are the win, draw, and lose combinations for each of the outcomes. Now we need to calculate the probability of each of these outcomes. This is a little complicated. First, I have to multiply the overall probability for each measure by either 1 or 0. If it's 1, then the probability is that the hero will win. If it's 0, then the probability is that the villain will win. Then, for each outcome, I need to multiply the result for speed times strength times power times intelligence. And this gives me the probability that the outcome will happen. For example, the probability that the Gene Team will win all 4 measures is 55% times 53% times 49% times 47%. That will equal 7%. It's interesting to take note that by adding the probability of all outcomes, you get 100%. Now you take the probability for each outcome and apply it to win, lose, or draw. If the number of measures is more than 2, then apply it to the win. If the number of measures is equal to 2, then apply it to the draw. And if the number of measures is less than 2, then apply the probability to the loss. And finally, you add the win, draw, and loss lines to calculate the total probability. Win equals 33%, draw equals 38%, and loss equals 29%. And here's how it looks graphically. I hope you enjoy this video.